that we are all leaders in our own right. Because wherever we are, we have people who follow us, who look up to us for guidance, for direction, for spiritual nourishment, and in all manner of ways. This is a fact that is often forgotten by very many of us, that we are leaders. So we begin to look around and begin to say, oh, in this country there are no role models. There are very many role models, but including yourself. But unfortunately, the role models we have might not be the ones we think we ought to have. And in our ignorance, we even forget that we are role models. Now, true leadership is about bringing out the best in the other person. So true leaders strive to bring out the best in other people. The people who in one way admire and we follow them. So people who are conscious that they are leaders take personal effort to make the next person shine. And in doing so, they must be selfless. They must be they must sacrifice their time and perhaps even their resources, and are committed to making others succeed. Patience is one of their central qualities. And I want to say that Jaramogi was a very patient man. I knew him as a person. He was my brother-in-law. His wife was my sister. But when I visited him down at the lecture, he would ask, there are many ngongers, which one? And they would tell him, the one at Kisumu Boys. And he would say, let my brother-in-law come in. I would go up to his bedroom, where I would find him bare-chested and in a pair of shorts, striped white and blue. And he would tell me, Ora, Bedika. Bedio tanda nakamo tanda nyamiru ogi He was an accessible man. So accessible that I find my nephews difficult to get to, but not so Jaramogi. And we would talk. He would even give me his cup of porridge, the black one. That type of patience and leadership style is lacking in very many of our leaders. Now, from our discussion, it was clear that there are two tiers of leadership. The Professor Moga mentioned it later. There's the personal tier. This requires you to recognize that you are a leader. You as a person. How do you organize yourself? Can you manage your own affairs? Are you systematic in the management of your own affairs? How do you run your own affairs? Do you have a projection for the future? Are you aware that the future exists? That for yourself, perhaps before you think of others. Then there is the second tier, which requires you to help others manage their affairs. Sometimes that role is thrust upon you by the society itself, very informal. You are asked to help because members of the society see a quality in you that can assist them to solve their problems. Are you willing to give without demanding to be paid? Ask yourself that question. And when you are given that responsibility, how do you execute it? Informally, as that may have been the case. But when you are given it formally, through a letter of appointment, how do you conduct the business of the society. Are you aware that you are a trustee? The trusteeship given to you by the society. Are you able to demarcate the trusteeship from yourself, or you treat that trusteeship as if it is yours? If you are not unable, if you are unable, then corruption sets in, because you are not aware of your limits. You take public property as your own private property, and that is a problem. The youth is being challenged, and the youth is challenging people. But are the youth aware that in their own right they are leaders? Yeah? You might be the first born, the second, but you might be the last born, where your younger father also has children. How do you help them manage themselves? Museo Odinga said here that the battle is for the youth. And do the youth realize that the battle is theirs? How do they conduct themselves? Or they think that one day when they are 35, they can become presidents or prime ministers. So, do the youth simply accept things as they are? With the youth goes the general citizen. Are the youth and the general citizen playing their watchdog role, or are they not? And if they are, how are they doing? I remember Beryl said here, very clearly, and she repeated, that when Mugabe came to power, they were very humble people. They were. After some time, they became low castes. They adopted some destructive tendencies. But she is blaming us, the citizens. We are the people who change our leaders into demons. What will we do to stop this trend? The question is for us all. While we are contemplating that, there are the people we call academicians. We didn't talk about them, but it is vital that we do. Have the academicians behaved any differently? This is a central question. When I'm talking about academicians, I'm talking about academicians, professionals, intellectuals, the middle class. What role have they played in the destruction of this country? Have they behaved any better from the rest of the citizens? My hypothesis is that they have not. A few years ago, let us remember that Kanu youth wingers had in their ranks professors, and they called themselves Luo scholars in Kanu, Luo Kanu scholars, and we had such people elsewhere. Now I found that a contradiction in terms, because once you are a scholar, you go beyond that tribe. You belong to the whole nation. The nation expects you to think for them. But in this regard, the academicians and professionals failed this country. They were there for hire. And when we remember the other day, some Ethiopian was brought here, and we were told that he was General Madenge. And the man was saying he was not Madenge. But there was a professor in psychology who came about to explain why the man cannot remember that he is not, that he is Madenge. So we have this type of mercenary scholars. They are always there, and they help to pull this country down in various ways. So the main question is, what do we do? I don't think this question has really been answered. When we now want to get quality leadership, what do we do? Let us remember that we have always been responsible for the presence of bad leadership in Kenya. It is of course easy to blame and shift blame, but let us all think hard about this one. What have I done as a person to ensure that bad leadership is in place and is maintained? And what do we need to do to ensure that we have got rid of bad leadership and we have good leadership and we hold the good leadership to account? Now, just before I give the vote of thanks which I've been asked to give, there's a book here. It's a small book, and I love reading it. It is Chinua Achebe's, and I've just discovered that what Mr. Odinga writes about is so similar to what Professor Chinua Achebe says here. And I want to tell you that although the book is titled The Trouble with Nigeria, you can remove the word Nigeria and insert Kenya, and it will still make sense. You can remove Nigeria and put Uganda, or even Sudan, and it will still be relevant, very relevant. Professor Chinua Achebe identifies a few problems with Nigeria which are relevant to us. Tribalism is here. False image of ourselves is here. Leadership, the Nigerian style. And here he says that the problem really is that the citizens like you and I are very keen on unaccountability. You yourself, you are not accountable, so you don't want to hold your leaders to account. And you are comfortable with that situation. We have social injustices and the cult of mediocrity. Here we all accept that mediocrity, where as long as the person employed is your brother, sister, nephew, cousin, it is all right. And then indiscipline. And in discipline, he begins with Nigeria's roads. You can leave those roads of Nigeria and start with these roads of Kisumu. You will see all the indiscipline he's talking about here. Corruption. Here, the Igbo problem, which you can remove the word Igbo and place Luo, or Kikuyu, the Kikuyu problem, or the Luo problem, or the Kalenjin problem, and it will still make sense. And when he gives the example of Amina Kano here is actually Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Perhaps really to complement the work we are talking about. Now for my next task, which is the vote of thanks. I very honestly and sincerely wish to thank on behalf of GLUK, on behalf of you all, and on behalf of myself, the African Research and Resource Forum, for identifying this wealth of social data, supporting his documentation of Jaramogi's life through the stages, and bringing him here so that we can share his ideas with us. I would also sincerely thank Mr. Odinga Odera on your behalf, on behalf of the group, and on behalf of all of us, for his picking up courage to put pen on paper and giving us an everlasting memory of the late Jaramogi as he saw him. While I thank him, I would also like to thank his family, who pushed, cajoled, bullied, and pressed him to put these ideas down. He has done all of us very well through those processes. I also wish to sincerely thank the panelists. My friend, brother, Professor Egara Kabaji. I know Professor Kabaji as a dynamic man, very understanding.